Hey everybody, it's David R. Becker here with Dillman's, and I'm hoping this is working. I think we're live right now. Thanks for coming and watching me this Saturday afternoon. It's afternoon. I do a class in the mornings, but Dillman's asked me to do this one in the afternoon, and we're going to be doing a beautiful little city scene today, and we're going to have a lot of fun with this. And for anybody that doesn't know what Dillman's is a great art retreat in the northern woods. And let me just go to their website, and you'll see I'm going to be up there in the spring with watercolor class, and it's going to be 6/27 to 7/2, so June to July 2nd. And then in the fall, I'm up there again that's June 27th, and then in the fall I'm up there again, and I do a water media class, and that class will be from 8/29 to 9/3. It's a wonderful place to do workshops, and really enjoy doing workshops up there. And that's like I might get to choose. I got to choose that I can do two of them at a time. Usually, most teachers get one shot to do a class up there, but I love it so much. And I do two different classes. One is in watercolor, and one's in acrylic medium, or water medium they call it, because we do with 4 different kind of acrylics, and it's all great. So today I'm here in my studio in Illinois, and it's 89 degrees here, 90 degrees. So I'm sweating a little bit because it's so hot in my studio here. I didn't have air conditioning in my studio, but we're going to get going, and I'm going to show you a couple other things. I do a workshop, I will do a workshop up at Dillman's, but I do classes, like this morning I have a class here in Illinois on Saturday mornings, but I also do a paint along on YouTube every Thursday, and all that stuff, information about me is on my website here at BeckerArt.net, and it's fun to go here and see what I'm up to and see what I'm doing. And if you go down a little bit here, you can see I do a demo. This is the demos right here is what I do. This is the painting we did this week on Thursday, and you can pick up the picture here and you can paint along or go back later, because it is on YouTube and it gets repeated again and again and again as much as you want. And then on the bottom here, I put out a newsletter right here. You can fill in this with your name and email, and you get a newsletter, and that lets you know each week what's happening in my life. And if you want to see where I'm doing workshops at, you can go there. And so that's a fun thing to do. And I give a little tips and stuff. And this week I think I did a thing on airbrushing and using an airbrush with watercolor, and I do all kinds of things that are really a lot of fun to do. And so today we're going to be doing this painting right here. We're going to be doing, I always sketch it up, it's a little city scene. And what we're going to do is I'm going to show you the supplies really quickly, and so you can go back here afterwards and see just a real quick, this is the supplies I'll be using. I'll be using Holbein Watercolors, my favorite watercolors, because they don't dry out to a hard clump. They don't have oxgal, so they tend to be really, really fluid all the time. They don't. You can instantly rejuvenate them with no problem with just a little bit of water. Rejuvenates them really nicely. And so that's what the watercolors I use here. Are the colors I've been using. My brushes, I have brushes that I have Holbein. They're Holbein gold brushes. There's 6 of them that I use that have my name on them, and you can get those on my website, which is BeckerArt.net or DavidRBecker.com. I won't be using any Mascoid today, and I didn't use my transfer paper. This is just some of the things I use normally, and I am using the Stonehenge Aqua paper, the 300 pounds. So this will be up here, and this is what we're painting. And so here's what we're painting today, and it's a scene, and I always change it to black and white. I used to have it where I had students do value studies way back, but nowadays I have them either change to black and white. And in my classes at Dillman's, every day we do about 2 different assignments. We do one in the morning, one afternoon, and I give you all the images that we're going to be painting and stuff like that. So this is the one I'm doing today, and as you can see, I turn it black and white for my value study, and that way I see right here, I can tell which my darks are and which my lights are. My center of interest is right here, and so this is what we're painting today. And so let me go right to the tabletop, and we can get started here. And if you do have questions and stuff, put them out there. I think Scott is here. I'm going to be watching the chat. I don't know where to go on. I normally don't do this on Facebook, so I'm not sure where the chat is on here. So if you guys are chatting away, chat away. And I think Scott will ask me some questions. He's going to let me know if there's any questions and stuff. And and also probably if there's any problems, hopefully he'll tell me if there's problems going on at the time. So I don't know how many people are watching, but let's have some fun here. All right, and so we're gonna get started with the, and if you can look close up here, I'm gonna show you a little close up. What I did is I sketched it in with pencil, and it's a little bit dark when I put it in the skin with the pencil. So a lot of times what I do is I take a needle rubber eraser, which I don't see right now. Oh well, we're not, I usually roll a needle rubber eraser across the thing here in my studio. I can't find it. But let me just tell you a little bit again about Dillman's in my class there. The first one's going to be watercolor. And we do watercolors on different surfaces. This is just that Stonehenge Aqua I was talking about. We also do it on Yupo paper. We do some things on Yupo paper. These are watercolors that are done in Yupo. And we also work on black watercolor paper that we're doing when we come to doing the watercolor workshop. And we do both. And this one actually is an acrylic for my the water media class. So this is acrylic, but this is a watercolor. And so we do use white watercolor in my class. And we also use black. And so you'll see that on my palette. I have black over here, and opposite over here is white. And so I do use those colors in my workshop. So you'll see that. And so let's get going with this one. And we always, in my classes up at Dillman's, we work quarter sheet. This is the size we work. All the things. And when we work on a different paper, like the black and stuff, I provide that. You have to provide the watercolor. The acrylic class that I do in the fall, everything is provided. All the brushes, the palette, but you don't get to keep the brushes. The brushes I have to take back. But you get to keep all the paper that I supply and the paints that I supply. Unless you get to keep the paints, but not the container that it comes in. So you'll see it's a round palette that if you take the acrylic class. But the acrylic class, you can't keep the paint anyways because it's going to dry out and it's acrylic, and once it gets hard, it's hard. But anyways, so let's get started with this. And if you have questions, please ask Scott, and I think Scott will let me know because I don't know where the chat is on my thing here. So I'll be just waiting for the questions and stuff. Or if he knows the answers, I'm sure he'll answer them for you. Answer them for me, I guess. So let me go right here, and we're going to get started. Again, I use Holbein Watercolors, and I did use them this morning, but I don't have to put fresh paint in because this paint is instantly rejuvenated with just a little bit of water. It doesn't have oxgall in it, so as soon as I put my brush on there, it's going to get wet. And see how it's very potent, this pigment too. So the sky on this, I'm going to keep and maybe put a little bit of light color on it, just to tone it down a little bit. I'll use a little bit of blue, and I'll wet it real quickly, just a little bit, because pretty much in the photograph, it's not white, but it's pretty close to white. So I'm just going to kind of put a little bit of blue in there just to kind of give it a little tinge of light blue. There we go. And then we're going to go right to the back. We work back to front in my classes. I teach them light to dark, back to front on a scene that's mostly like a city scene or just a landscape, because usually it's a distance you get. Like we're doing a still life, it's also distance, but not as far a distance. So here we got aerial perspective in here. So we got these buildings back here. And if I work my lights first, and so I'm going to take a little bit of Prussian blue and this little lavender. And you'll see in my palette, I do have colors that have white in them. I have pink over here, I have lavender, I have white, this is like a jaune number 5, it's like a flesh tone. And we got this light blue over here that's got white in it. But if I take these colors and mix them together and then use them fairly wet, then they're going to be light and transparent. And so I'm going to do that first back here. I'm just going to kind of put the buildings in the background in there first. I'm using Stonehenge paper, so it doesn't suck in as much as like an Arches does. And so we're just going to go in here and kind of put that in there. And so we're just going to kind of put the buildings in the background in first. And I don't usually, I know this is a color photo you're seeing right here. This picture you're seeing right here, that's a color photo. There's not much color in the city scene, a lot of grays. But I tend to try to up that a little bit more than what's in the photograph. And in my classes, I don't teach you to copy the photograph so much as I want you to do an interpretation of the photograph. There are classes there at the Dillmans that have more where you're painting and trying to make it look very highly detailed and stuff, and those are great classes. I don't teach that way though, so if you're looking for that, then you may want to take another one of the instructors who paints very detailed. And you know, there's so many different ways of painting watercolor, and it's great that Dillman's has so many different kind of teachers that you can pick and choose what you kind of like. I paint more with a kind of a loose interpretation of the photograph. I do bring photographs. They're usually black and white. I don't bring you a color one because I want you to learn how to put color into the photograph, into your painting, that makes the painting look more like a painting and not like a photograph. And I want it to look like a beautiful painting that's a watercolor. And then when we do acrylics, we do them in acrylic style. And here we're doing it in a watercolor style. And once I apply my pigment down and I put it, I'm doing my light background right now. What I do is I can put any of this into the foreground right away. Why? Because I can going to go darker over the top of that. So even if I did this and put it in there, I can do that. Now I am doing here a little bit, leaving it dry because I don't have much time to dry the thing, so I want hard edges there. And so I'm not going into these buildings, which I could if I were in a class, because we can use a hair dryer, which I don't like to use a lot because you don't let the watercolor do its own thing. And let me just see that, make sure that I don't get any text and stuff from. I hear that I'm going to be, if you have a couple questions that I can't answer, that Scott can't answer, he'll let me know. And so I can keep on going with my teaching of the painting. And so we're going to go in here. And now the same thing I did with the sky, if you look at the street, it's kind of a grayish color. So how do you gray a color? You add its complement. So blue would be orange, right? And so just use a little bit of orange into your blue. And I'm going to put this across the front of the texture here in the front on the sidewalk or the alley that looks like it's an alley in some city. And in my classes, I usually pick up, and in my Thursday night paint-alongs, I usually pick up my photos from places where they let you use the photos of photographers royalty-free. And so there's a couple of places online that let you do that, and this is one of them. Was from, I think this one was from unsplash.com. It's one of the places you can go to, unsplash, UNSPLASH, splash.com. And there's royalty-free images that you can use. And it's great for my students because I want them to not copy a photograph and then get in trouble for it. If they do want to, show it to some people, usually things that you do in a class, you don't want to, enter them into anything anyways. So when it comes to that, just, you're learning how to do the thing. So use it. But if you do kind of sell it later, just make sure that people know that it is, it's not your photograph, but the copyright is of somebody else owns the copyright. But these are royalty free. So basically it's your image for, your painting. So it's fine. You're not going to get in trouble for using a photographer's picture because that's what those things are there for. There's a couple other places online that also do that, where you can choose and you can grab their photographs from them without having any repercussions. They're not going to come after you. And that's for the class. I like to pick out really good subject matter for them. And it could be something like this in the class, and I try to simplify a scene like this where I'm going from back to front, and you can see I'm not doing one window and then another window. I work the big areas of light and darks, and so pretty much that's my background. And I couldn't put a couple other things in there. And actually, it's also good to have a rectangle brush so that I can put it in the windows and such, because those are so much easier just to do one brush stroke than it is to take a round brush and go around it. So back here, now I'm going to work my way up, and as I get coming forward, I'm going to get warmer. That's a little bit cooler, grayer as I'm going back, and as I come forward, I'm going to pick up more of the warmer colors, right? And so I'm just going to start putting some of the orange and into some of the blue, which will give me a gray. And I notice that a lot of the professional artists that I see out there that are really good, and they're doing a lot of city scenes, a lot of those European painters, and I noticed that in like the Alvaro Castanats, and they're using a lot of grays and black in their work. If you look, or that neutral tint, you don't need to actually get neutral tint. You can just make it by mixing your complements together and getting your grays. See how that gray that got by mixing orange and blue together. And whatever blue I have, Prussian blue, ultramarine blue, peacock blue, and horizon blue. And horizon, of course, has the one that is has a little bit of white in it. I'm just going to put that in there. And as I come forward, I notice there's a couple of spots that are lit up that are white. I could have put masking fluid down there, but I have decided in my watercolors that I don't mind using white. And so I can't submit it to certain watercolor societies, but for making it easy for like a demo like this, I'm just going to put white in there later. I didn't put masking fluid down. You could do that. Definitely do that. So let's I got to go back here. And while I'm talking, this is dry. No, it's still not dry yet, so I'm going to wait for this to dry, and I'll go right into here. Normally I would go from back to front, wait for that to dry. But I'm going to go on this side. I'm just going to bring it forward. And all right, I got a question here real quick. Hold on, let me hold on and see. Okay. All right, I was asked what other sites do I use for getting those things. So there's about 4 of them that I use. One is called Unsplash. The other one's called Pexels, Pexels. .com. That's another one, Pexels.com, and then Pixelbay, Pixabay.com. Those are the 3 places I normally go to. There's also a site, I think it's called Borrow My Photo or something like that. And even on Facebook, there's some Facebook pages that you can look for and type in royalty free, or pages where photographers will let you use their paintings, or their photographs on actually a Facebook page. I don't know those right offhand, but just in the search bar, just type in, royalty free images that you want to see, that you can use, artists can use. Because in my classes at Dillman's, I try to make you work with some really nice photographs and stuff, and I myself don't have the best photos a lot of times for classes, so it really is nice that the photographers are letting us use those things. And now see, I'm going to the front here and going to the right because I'm waiting for that to dry. So I'm going to right away get my darks in over on this side. And so I'm just going through things, and you notice how I get a little bit warmer on this side. And I'm applying, I call this wetting as you go along. A lot of times, like the background in there, I'm wetting as I go along. If I would do a sky, sometimes I would just wet it first, because that's how you get a soft edge. And I don't need a soft edge on the edge here, but I do need it on the inside of the building. I like to get some soft edges in there. And with the city scene, a lot of times you don't need as many soft edges as you do hard edges, because you are doing buildings, so it's just more easy to do a city scene for me, because I don't have to control my edges in a wet wash. That's one thing I teach you at my Dillman's classes, that you will learn how to manipulate your paints in a wet wash, in a wet wash, so that you can create a line that's soft, and so it doesn't bleed into the area and stuff. And normally students can't do that because they don't use enough paint, and they don't use fresh paint. Holbein paints always stay fresh, and so if you don't have that in your palette when you're I have a couple palettes that I bring with, and I have you use those to show you how important it is to use enough paint in my classes there and my workshops. So you're always going to use enough paint, and you are going to learn how to control your edges. Here in my studio, you'll see underneath everything, I'm working on a towel. I work on a towel because I don't need paper towel. I just rubbing anywhere I want. I can rub over here, so wherever my brush is, and if I want to get some of the water out but keep the pigment in my brush, I just go like this, and I can put it on the front of the brush, and over here I can just wet the back of the brush. So now I just pulled out the water, and so it's a little bit thicker on the front, and I can just apply it. It's all about how much pigment you have in your brush compared to how much water you have on there to control your watercolor. That's how basically you control your watercolor, is by using enough paint and knowing how much paint you need to have it so it doesn't run so far when it's wet, the paper. When it's dry, it's easy because you're going to get a hard edge. But when it's wet, like here it's dry now, and so I'm going to get these buildings back here. I'm going to do them a little bit more blue and gray, and as I come forward, and you notice how I'm not doing individual buildings per se, I'm doing the area. When I squint my eye over at this picture right here, I squint my eye. I didn't turn it black and white. I should have put the black and white up there for you to see it, but I look for the values. I'm really looking for the values, and then the colors can be whatever I want them to be. I'm using a color palette of blue and orange, which is complements, and so that's basically what I'm going for right now today, is more of the blue and orange, and maybe a little bit of pink orange, because pink orange is really, they call it salmon, an orange and a pink really is kind of cool. So I'm going to put that into a wet wash here. And as I come forward, I'm going to get darker and darker. And back there, I'm gonna keep it the cool colors, and not so dark, not so contrasty yet. And as I come forward in this, and as you can see, the sun is coming from back here, and almost the sun's in the picture probably up here and coming down because all the shadows are coming towards me. And a lot of times that's a hard way of painting a scene, is when the sun is coming at you. I was at a plein air festival last year, and a lot of the oil painters said they don't actually even paint into the sun. And I always thought that was a kind of a neat way of painting, because I like the shadows coming at you, or I like the burst. And sometimes when the sun is like right here, it would burst so much that it just kind of gives that illusion that you can't see what's there, because it kind of blurs it out because it's so bright, the sun. So you can do that too. That's one of those things you can do with watercolor. And this morning I just showed how to use an airbrush to get that effect. And I'm going to show you in a little second how you can also use an airbrush in watercolor, which I just did in my newsletter last week. I just bought one, and I just bought one that came yesterday. And this is an airbrush with the compressor built in, and so I can spray right here without any cords or anything. And I just did a video. If you look on my YouTube channel, if you want to find my YouTube channel, just go to my Facebook or to my website. You can find it. But I did a whole thing on airbrushes and how you use them with watercolor. You can just put a little tint over things and get some really soft edging. But I just found this one that doesn't have anything. You charge it, and it just is perfect for watercolors too. Is like plein air painter. I can just get in a real nice wash of something. Let's say I wanted to put a little glaze over that, which I will do later. I'll put a little bit of blue over this guy to show you. Very simple. You know, I know a lot of people use an atomizer. They're one of those little. Let's see if I have one right here. I use an atomizer to use on the thing. I can't find it right now, but I will in probably a little bit. I had it here a second ago, but oh well. I'll show you. But an atomizer is you blow it through your mouth. It's like a little L-shaped thing that you blow through to get like the airbrush kind of look. So now I'm going to wet this whole area right here, which is a big area. And I'm just going to wet it with water. I just happen to have red, like a earth tone in my brush, but that's not what it's going to be completely. I'm just going to go in there. And this little car right here, there's a little car right here, or truck. Just going to put a little bit through that. And this is not going to be my darkest dark. This is my middle tones for that area. And we're just going to kind of put in there right away, putting in a little bit of my shadows that go on the street from the poles that are coming down this way. Put them right through her. And right through this area. See, you can do it right through these things, because you know in my value study right here, if I'm pointing right there, see how the bike is darker than anything around it in the background. So I can go through those things, because it's going to be later on that I'm going to go through with the dark on top of that. So get your color into the building or into the street now that you want. Maybe a little bit of warmth in there. And I'm working middle tones now to my darks. This is still my middle tones. I'll go around this little manhole cover here. Keep the manhole cover lighter. So I'm just going to go around that. And it has that little bit of blue that I put in there before. You know, if you want to make it even messier, you can even spatter a little bit. Take your finger and hit it. You know, because this street is not as clean as you think. And so I'm dirtying it up a little bit of, you know, where I tap it in there and I get a little bit of these dots, and you can see closer up. See how I'm getting a little bit of the texture in there. And this side is still wet. This one side is drying, so I can't go in the area that's starting to get dry. Once it starts getting dry like that, you got to make sure that you stay away from that area, because if it's damp, you're going to make watermarks or blossoms or whatever you want to call them. But I'm not going to do that, so I don't need to do. Sometimes you want blossom. That's how you do it. You wait until it's kind of damp. Now I'm going back here and just doing a little bit of the light and middle tones back here. I put some windows in the very distance. This part's dry now. I can get a little details from the back that are just really light. Those are really far back. Like I said, I'm a little bit looser painter than the very tight, picturesque, where it's like a photograph type of painter. I'm not a realist or a fine, you know, where they call it high definition painter, where you see every little crack in the street and the ants walking across. Though there's teachers that teach that at Dillman, so if you want to get that kind of class, definitely look them up. It's, you know, there's so many different ways of painting. And again, that's another reason I love Dillman's, is because when I go there, a lot of times there used to be that we had like 3 other teachers at the same time, and it's neat to see what other teachers are teaching, you know. And I like to walk into their classrooms, which you can do, but I think this year it's again with the pandemic we have to only one person at a time. But sooner or later I'll get back to the other parts. But it's fun to try other teachers, and I tell all my students too to try other teachers, not just me. Because I even myself take other teachers to see how they work their watercolor or their acrylics or whatever you're taking. You can learn from everybody. We all may say the same type of things, but we say them in different ways too. So sometimes you may understand it better from another teacher, what they're trying to put across to you than just the way they put certain things. All right, so now let's get in here, and I'm going to get a little bit darker as I come forward here, because I'm going to get my really darks now. So I got pretty much my lights and my middle tones all done. So now it's time to get my darks. And darks create details. Darks create shapes, and they create things. And where the lights are pretty much they color things. So you color things first, and then you create things. So I'm creating this building, and I'm going to kind of go around certain stuff to negative paint like windows and such, but it's going to be pretty dark, and I want those things to stand out now. And you notice I don't ever usually use one color. I will go in there and put all kinds of colors in there to let it match what I did in the background a little bit. I am making it a little bit warmer up here, definitely making it warmer. And the shadows, I don't make the shadows like all cool. It's a warm, like the warm sun and a cool shadow type of thing. I just look at whatever the shadow's on, and I kind of go from that. I kind of more go for what the shadow is on. So if it's white, you can make the shadow any color. If it's on, let's say this street was, red, you make it darker red. It's just obvious that you would make it a darker red then. So I do it like that. I tell students when they're working on a project that when you're getting a shadow, look at what you're putting the shadow on. And this building is, I'm not sure what color this building is, so I'm just going to make it, all colors that are in here. I'm just making it a warm color. I'm making it a dark, warm color. But that doesn't mean I won't put a couple really dark, cool colors in there too. I let my pigment float. I float the pigment. Any other questions, guys? I can answer if... Scott must be doing a great job. Okay. And when it comes to Dillman's, I know I think the class is pretty full. I'm not quite sure. You want to ask Scott that. I think there's a couple more spots available in the class. Definitely, probably for the fall class, is probably some things still available. Again, the fall class is a acrylic class. And we kind of work the acrylic like watercolor. You learn how to do acrylic and watercolor all at once because, let me just turn this upside down because I want to do these pulls right here. And I'm going to, because I like to pull it and not through there, I'm just going to pull it from here and just keep on going. But my class is in acrylics, and I call it a water media class because when we called it acrylic class, nobody wanted to take it. I'm not sure if there's not many acrylic painters or whatever, but then what we call it a water media class, because you're using 4 different kinds of acrylics, and you're using them some like watercolor, so you're pretty much getting 2 classes in one. And the nicest thing is you don't bring anything. You don't have to bring a thing. I bring it all. Brushes. I mean, if you want to bring your own stuff to the fall class of the acrylics, that's fine. But papers you don't have to bring. You don't have to bring pretty much anything if you don't want to. A lot of times people have their own favorite brushes. You can bring that if you'd like. Those are that's no big deal. You can bring a paper if you want, like in the evening if you want. They don't give you an extra to paint in the evening and stuff. So if you do want to bring some other things, I do have probably some extra, but not enough for the whole class. If you're after class you want to try little things and stuff, and but it's a fun class. I just find it because we work on 4 different mediums. We work with 4 different mediums, and they are ink, fluids, gouache, and heavy-bodied acrylic. And so here I'm putting in the pull real quick, and then so again, my darks are, I'm trying to get the biggest darks done first, and you can see how much different colors are in there. And when something is like that, and I see that the side I want to make it look rounded, I take like a light blue or a lavender, and this is wet, and I just apply it right on a light on top of a dark. Look at that, a light on top of a dark. But since it's floating and since it's wet, let me show you up close. See how it's a violet, a lavender on top of the dark. Well, it's floating on top of there. It'll still be transparent. Now this color is a little bit opaque, but because it's floating and kind of turning the edge, it will look very transparent, and it won't look like you're using an opaque color, because you really aren't. You're using an opaque color, but you're doing it in a wet wash, so it's bleeding out and it's becoming transparent. And so now I'll use a different brush for the different size pole here. I'm using a flat brush. I'll get this pole back here. I'll make this one a little bit lighter than the one in front because it is going back. And I probably should make it a little bit more of the blue end aspect like it is back there. A little bit more blue, so I'm just going to try and pull that through here. And so then if you want to put a little bit, maybe down here, I put a little bit of warmth in there. Now it doesn't matter how small this area is, I can float pigment in there. I can put a little something in there. I can put a little warmth maybe down here. I just let it float. I'm all about floating your pigment. That's what everything in my newsletter is called, Float Your Pigment, because that's what you're basically doing. You're taking and you may be floating it on dry paper, but then you get a hard edge. If you float it on wet paper, you get a soft edge. But you're basically taking the pigment, putting it's a watercolor, so you're putting it in water, and then to get the edge, like this edge right here is soft. You don't even see that edge because it's soft, because I went through a wet edge, right? There's still an edge there. It's not a very good one. it's kind of, but I kind of want it blurry right there. I don't want you to look right there right at the moment. That later on I can maybe fix that up with more of a other color on top of that. Here, this is still damp. So if I want to get a watermark there now, I can. I would just put water there and it would make me a watermark because it's kind of damp. But let me get these poles in here real quick so that I can move on. And I usually do my demos in 1 hour. I had been an illustrator for many years as a storyboard illustrator in the city of Chicago, and I would always have to get things done in the meeting at a certain time. So I got really good at figuring out how long it takes me to do something, or when it's needed. And so I want my demos to be like 1 hour, no longer. And so I've gotten to a point where I can do them in 1 hour, and it doesn't matter how detailed or how it is. Just if I know how much time I have left, I just get things done faster, or I go a little simpler with the work. And that doesn't mean that you'll be working this fast in my class. You know, this is just me working on something right now, and so I'm pretty quick at what I do. People are always amazed at how fast I get. Like every Saturday morning, I just did this one this morning of a lady sitting in. I don't have it with me here at the moment, but a lady sitting in the window reading a book, and I do those in about 20 minutes. And so I did that one in about 20 minutes today. Here I'm just pulling out a little bit of the color. Another thing with this paper, this is called Stonehenge Aqua. It's a really great paper for pulling out because it doesn't absorb into the paper as much as an Arches does. And so Stonehenge Aqua by Legion. Watch this, I can just take my brush and it's damp. Look at how I can just pull out the paint. You know, with one brush stroke, my brush is just damp. It's not really wet. I see I'm just drying it on there, but I'm sharpening it. It's damp, and I can just pull out. I can pull out a little light right there. Looks like there's a little light on the other side of this pole right here. Look at this. Look at that. I can just pull that right out of there. You know, no big deal. Just boom, and I got it. Just pulling out little things here, and then you can actually put it in over here. Pull it out from here, and then take your brush because then it's dirty, right? And so you can use it over here. I love using this 1 1/4 inch brush because I had Holbein make it so that it's super sharp. If you look how sharp that brush is, and it's a flat, but if you turn it sideways, it's a round, right? And if you take it like this, it's a liner because it's one big line. And so I can take and I can even do this pull back here. Watch this. Look at that. By one line. This, so what? If I had to stuck on a desert island, this is the brush I take with because this is every brush right here, and I can even split it apart here, and I can do like I would be on the island and I'd be sitting there doing my windows like this. I would take a little and do the side of it with the brush. So if you ever got stuck, this is the brush you want to be with, the 1 1/4 inch. Like I said, when you turn it sideways, it's a round brush. I can actually do these. See, I can do these big pulls on this side with this brush. But I don't leave it. I never do that where I put one more color in there. I'll take my other brush here. I can do it with that brush, but I'm just going to take another brush and I'm just going to put some color in here. And take it down, and then this another one. Round brush is also good to use for these pulls. That's fine. Whatever brush fits your purpose, that's what you want to think. What is it that I'm doing, and what's the best one that you can use for that job that you're doing. I find that for windows, the flat brushes are better than a round. And how do you know that? You have to practice with your brushes. Take them, take a scrap sheet of paper once in a while and just mess around with them. See what they can do. None of these instruments come with instructions. When you buy them at the art store and stuff, there's no instructions how to use brushes. So how do you learn how to use them? You just play with them and see what they can do. And not on a painting either. Don't sit there and do a painting. Just mess around with it. See what kind of dots you can get. See what you can do. Take your paper, take a paper like this, and what happens if I push down and like swipe it? What happens when I do little circles or I do just a tip? I mean, learn how your brush works. It's so important to learn how to use the tools that you're going to be doing paintings with. I find it funny when people just, beginners, they just feel like they should be able to do everything, just by me telling them. But no, you have to practice. It's all about practicing, how to use things and how to do things. And so here we're getting darker and darker as we come forward. We're not our darkest yet. We're just getting there. We're getting darker and darker as we come forward. And what's my darkest dark going to be? It's almost going to be like a black, because that'll be really dark when you get to a black. Because then there's no more light, there's no more color, it's just black, and so that's when you got dark enough. Especially if you want something to be really super, super dark, you can't go wrong with that. Just make it solid black and then put a color in it if you want a warm black or a cool black. I'm going down here, see I'm making that a little bit darker. And as I'm coming forward, I'm also adding a little bit of detail. I don't even know in the picture. I'm not even looking at the picture. I'm just kind of making it up because, are you going to be? It's not that detailed a picture where you can tell what's happening back there. You just know it's objects and such. So, and it's funny when I like the piece I got into the TSA show is of a operating room with the workers, and everybody's been telling me that excuse me, it is so detailed. Hold on 1 second. Excuse me, I got to get a drink of water here for a second. I talk too much, I guess, which is a good thing, I think. And so, what was I just talking about? Before I lost my train of thought. Oh, and the piece I got accepted in there was telling me it's so detailed. It's no different than I'm doing this painting. It's no different. It's just detailed. The fact that I'm doing details in the spots that need to be detailed, that need to look like they're a little bit more important. I haven't even done her yet because she's the most important, right, in this scene. So I haven't done her yet because I have to still, I'm working to that because she's in the farthest forward. And so I'm getting these other things done first. And so let's see how much time do we still have. We're at 38. Oh, we still got plenty of time. I want to make it done by 2 o'clock. We want to be done. And before that, I can show you a couple other things too. All right, so now that that side pretty much looks like it's pretty close to done. I don't know what some of this stuff is over here. I'm just making it shadowy. Okay, so now with this side, now this is it's finally dried. Yeah, it's pretty dry enough. But now there's my finger marks. Well, that's going to be something. Dry enough for me to put a couple of little darks in there and keep on going here. Ooh, did I get it? Somebody asked me. Yeah, I don't have beer today. I usually on my Thursday night paint-alongs, I only have a little bit of hint water. So no beer today. I was going to think about that, but I thought, well, we'll wait for this evening. I may do something this evening. I just got this airbrush and I want to do maybe a little thing. So every once in a while, if you subscribe to my YouTube channel, once in a while I'll just jump on there when I'm in my studio practicing, and you can see some of the stuff I'm doing. But I can also cheer with cheers everybody, cheers with water, I guess. Again, it is 89 degrees here in Illinois today. I can't believe how hot it is. That's what my car said. My car said it was 89 degrees when I was driving home today from my class. Like, whoa, that's still too hot for the spring yet. All right, so now I'm going to go in here and get some details. Let's see, make sure I have this guy on here so I can. What was the first brush you mentioned? The brush. Oh, was it this brush? The first brush I mentioned was my BeckerArt brush, the 1 1/4. I think hopefully that's the one I was mentioning. Can you say the brushes again? The six brushes I have are these are all BeckerArt brushes. This one is a 1 1/4 inch. Then we have the number 16 round. That's the number 16 round. This one comes to a super fine point. Look at that point on that thing. So you can't get much more of a point to that. And then you've got the 1/2 inch flat, 1/4 inch flat. We got the number 4 rigger. This is where I make my little lines. To see the lines I did up there. And then my number 8 round. Now I could use maybe the number 10 round I kind of like, but this one I usually use for like some of the details that I'm doing right now. Like when I come in for her, I'll do that. And so you can just go right here. So those are my 6 brushes. You can get those brushes individually on my website, or you can get the whole set for $60. It's the whole set, comes with every one of those 6 brushes. And if you're at my workshop, I also sell them at the workshop. I always bring some with, just in case people want them. And you can practice with them first too. I have a bunch of that you can practice on with them. And so, okay, we're going to the person now. And so I'm going to start with the lightest colors of the person. And so, of course, that'll be his face, because it's like, I want to do some, it's going to be dark flesh tones. And so I'm just going to go in there. And I'm working a little bit tighter because, it's a little bit more important that I get the edge of his face looking like an edge of a face. Just because he is the center of interest, or she. It's got a haircut, but I'm not sure. And so I'm just going to put that in there too. I'm just going to put some darks in there, let it float. Hair color. I always like to put redheads in my work, and so we're going to put a little brown, maybe a little brown hair, and then I put a little tail, so it can either be a guy or a girl. So we can do either way. You can go either way. So then we go here, and then once it's wet, remember what I was saying. You always plop other colors in there. You don't have to stick with one color. Look how many colors I have in there already. I have blue, I have a warm color, a cool color. I just wet it and I get the outer edge, and then I go in and I go for the different colors. I got to get the right, harder edge out. What's important to show that what it is the outer edge anyway. So just make sure your outer edge, your hard edge, will look like what it is. The inside edge, inside there, all those little curves of the material or the wrinkles and stuff are not really that important to identify what's happening. It's more important to get the outer edge to show me what's happening in there, what's happening with the person or the bike or whatever, whatever you're doing. That's it could be a tree. Like when you're doing a tree, it's not so much what the inside of the tree, all the leaves on the inside, but it's the outer edge that shows the shape of things, especially in your center of interest here. Where in Illinois do I teach? I teach in Libertyville on Thursdays, where I do the same painting that I do online on Thursdays, and then on Saturday mornings in McHenry, Illinois. I used to have a studio there, but with the pandemic, and it was a little hard to operate when I couldn't get any money for anything, so I had to close up my studio up in McHenry. But the studio next door is called The Studio. She lets me do my class there now, so I'm in McHenry, Illinois. And then the one in Libertyville is more of a paint-along one, where we all paint the same thing like I do on Thursday nights. It's more of a paint-along, and the Saturday morning ones are individual, like everybody's doing their own painting. And they got their own ideas of what they want to do, because a lot of them have been in my class for a while, so they're a little bit more advanced, and when I get newcomers in there, we're all doing different things, so just a little bit different. And I'm going to put a little bit of a crossbar here. This is a girl's bike. It has a little bar right there, but let's see. And then they got the chain. A little bit of chain here. Now, when it comes to these tires, how do you do a circle really nice and, draw it really well and then go slow? There's stencils. You can use stencils for round things sometimes, but just go slow. Make sure when you're drawing it on there, maybe you use something round, because it's easier to follow your drawing and make it round than just doing it freehand. Unless your style is really, really loose, then you just go boom and you're done. There's people who have styles like that too. There's people that teach at Dillman's that are a lot looser than I am. So if you like looser than this, then you can take those teachers too, like a Eric Weigart or a Tom DiFrancesconi. I think they teach there. I think definitely Eric Weigart, I think, teaches at Dillman's. And so we're gonna put a little dark down here and see how I'm just putting the really nice darks in here. What is that line I put there? Oh, that's a shadow. That's a shadow line. I don't like that shadow going that way, so I'm going to erase that as soon as I find my eraser here. I don't like the shadow going that way. I kind of think I wanted to go right here. I think I put a shadow in that way. So I'm making these nice and dark, and I'm going to put a shadow of the bike on the street too. But first I'm just putting in some of these details. And again, no matter how small the wet area is, you can add other colors into that, like float other colors into it. Like here I'm putting a little orange in there to warm it up a little bit, bring it forward. Here in the basket, I'm going to put some color, and I'm going to make it a little bit lighter, and then I'm going to put the dark parts over that. You see how I just used the paper towel? Not paper towel, but the towel on my underneath everything. I use a white towel underneath it, which I get from Goodwill. I just get these at Goodwill. I think they're usually like $3 or $2, $1.99 I think usually for a towel. And I don't care if they're stained or anything, because it's just a white towel, but it's so nice to be able to do it. And then I bleach them when I put them in the wash. I just take I have about 7 of them. I just put them into the washing machine, but bleach them, and then they come out perfect. They come out nice and white again, and then I just use it again and again and again. I just like the fact that I can do it anywhere on my painting or mat, and I just want to all of a sudden rinse my brush off like this and get the water out, but keep the pigment on, and I can go like this, and I can just know how much, that there's not that much water in there. And so now I'm doing these shadows here. So I'm going to throw in the shadows across the tire here. I'll put that in later. Now the shadow for the bike. Here I got a little bit of a watermark because it was damp right there, but doesn't it look cool? I love watermarks. There's a couple of artists out there who actually use watermarks as part of their style. There's what was his name? I forget. There was one. He had taught. He's from Scotland, and I think he was up at teaching at Dillman's one year too. And he uses watermarks as like part of his style. This, and here so what color am I going to use for the shadow up here? I'm using kind of a grayish blue, only because I can use any color I want on white, because you can make it warm or cool. It doesn't matter what color you use on white when you're throwing a shadow on white. And so I'm just using colors that I already used throughout the background maybe, and so I just make sure I use some of those colors, and it'll look like a shadow. And now the shadow should look like the bike, and then the person here looks like it's above, so I'm kind of copying. I'm not going to make it as perfect as the photograph. I'm not going to be, making sure it looks just like the photograph. I'd rather have it look, it's an impression. Again, it's an impression of the scene. It's not photographic, and I'm hoping that it looks more like a watercolor anyways. I want it to look like a neat painting. And so there we've got some shadows coming through there. And now see how fast I did the person? Now I can go back in there and get detail, because that was like my middle tones and lights. And then I'll go back in with my darks to create shapes. Again, the shapes are created by the darkest darks. And so you'll go in there with your really dark. I start with black and I go into a color, because I know if I go into black, I'm getting my darkest dark, and then I can make it dark, like maybe I'll make it a red dark, or a warm dark, or a cool dark, or I'll go into here and then take black and Prussian blue. That's usually a really dark, and then I can go back in here, get my tire again, maybe get the seat, maybe these parts that are just crevices here, the back leg maybe a little bit darker. Again, let me just show you closer up so you can see a little bit more what's going on here. See, I float things around and they're just kind of all coming together. And as you pull away, you see more of the painting too, how it fits all together. This is a little bit of a tangent here, so I'm going to do another little shadow right there next to it. Let's see, any questions? All right, we'll go through here. Put another little shadow through here. Maybe a shadow here. That's got a little big. So I'll rub it off here and then just pull that out of there. Maybe just some dirty swipes over here and there. Just take some dirty paint. When I say dirty paint, I just want to take some grays and I'll go in here and I'll just maybe highlight that a little bit more of the manhole cover. I was asked, do I always draw this much detail? Yeah. It depends on how detailed the subject matter is. If it is detailed, like this is a pretty detailed scene, then yeah, I do put all those things in there, just so that I know I have them in there. And if I don't actually paint them, that's okay too. But I like to have, in pencil wise, and like I said in the beginning, I also like to take a kneaded rubber eraser and roll it across it, so there's not too many lines that will affect the paint. You know, if it's too much graphite on there, then it'll affect the paint sometimes. But yeah, I do like to put a lot of details in with the pencil. Doesn't mean though you have to paint it all. I don't paint that detailed. Like I try to then sit back and do more of the bigger areas. But I know, notice how I went through. Like I could have put in all this detail, but then still do a wash over everything. You know, I still do the big wash over everything, and then later on I come back in and do the details. So here, maybe this is a garage, and I can get the little lines and such. This is an alleyway, so maybe this is, and then maybe next door here is a door. You know, maybe this looks like it's got kind of like windows or something back there, or just lines. So I take my flat brush. I'm going to show you how to take a little bit of light blue. I'm just going to take it like this and run it down. Just run it across that little bit area there. And then across this way. All right, we're getting pretty close. Some people will probably ask, am I going to put in every spoke? No, I'm not going to put in every spoke. I'll probably put a couple of them in just to get the look of like there's just spokes in there. And now I'm going to do the details of her because I think she's dry now. And so I'll put in maybe the dark side where the hair is. Maybe the starting to look like a guy though here. Make the hair a little bit longer. Go across the ears. Maybe the back of the one arm here, put a little bit so you can tell that the back of the arm. If you want to know the colors of my palette, go back in this video when it's done. They're all listed on that shot that I took. I can tell you some of them, but there's so many different ones in here that I can tell you that. But if you want to see the colors, go back in the video when this is done and then replay it to the first, I think it was like 7 minutes. I do a little bit, I have that page that shows all the colors I use that are on my palette. That's one way of getting it. But to go really fast, I can say that this is red light, or light red. Light red is called. It's like a connector. It's like a burnt orange. Then we've got a alizarin crimson. We've got a brilliant orange, a permanent yellow orange. We got a permanent yellow light. We got these two are brilliant pink and peach pink, or I think a peach color or something like that. Then we've got jaune number 4, I think, or number 2. We've got lavender. An opaque white is titanium white. There's 4 different grays in here. They're all just kind of grays. I don't use them very often. Then we've got compose green, compose blue. And then we got horizon blue. We got peacock blue, ultramarine blue, Prussian blue, black, peach black, and I've got permanent violet and brilliant violet, imidazolone brown, and this is a what is that? I have no idea what that is. That is a some kind of carmine, I think, or something like that. The red. Again, like go back into my into this video, and on that one page, and I put it up on the screen all the colors I'm using. That's how I found that to be the easiest way. If you just go back and you can just see them, they're all written down. And I'm just putting little details in the basket. Put the brake cables, maybe a little bit, a couple of the spokes. But they're riding. You don't even see the spokes when they're riding, right? Because she is riding. So instead, we'll just put a little shadow in there. And I think I wanted to show you a few more things with the airbrush, and we're almost done here, aren't we? A couple more minutes here. And so I'm just gonna put these lines in here real quick. And sometimes you can just leave the pencil lines in there and don't even put any other, you don't have to put the paint lines in. The worst thing is if you start putting these lines and they don't turn out thin enough. Nothing worse than this really thick and slow line that's really jaggedy. You don't want to do that. And so the last thing I'm going to show you real quickly, I'm going to take off the, is this airbrush. And so I started using airbrushes like last week. And I've used an atomizer before, but I find that an airbrush is a lot easier. And I'm going to be putting this online on my YouTube channel. So go to my YouTube channel, which is, go to my website and you can find my YouTube channel. And so what I do is I'm going to put a little bit of blue over this and maybe a little bit of color over this. So I'm just going to take blue and I'm going to put it in the water. I'm just going to kind of, and this airbrush is purple, which is my favorite color, which is really so cool. I know it's kind of the little things that make you happy, I guess. Maybe a little bit of purple in here. And so I'm taking a lot of water, taking this, and I'm going to rub my brush across the top of this airbrush. And this is only for like if you're going to use a stencil or something, and you want to stencil and use a make a dark on a stencil. It's hard to do a stencil with a dark color because you have to wet, and it's really hard to do a wet dark thing with a stencil. It's easy to wipe out with a magic eraser. All right, so then I'm going to turn this thing on. There's a little button right here. I'm just going to turn that on. I'm going to take a sheet of practice paper just to see. I'll turn it on, and I'm just going to take and press down here, and just going to, you see it's just going to do a little brush of blue in there, right? So what I can do is, and it's so nice and quiet, listen to this thing. And so I'm just going to go over here and just put a little bit of blue, a little tinge of blue in there. So see that now it's a little bit of blue right there. It's not very much, and it's just a great way of making an area. Let's say I want to just darken it slightly, or get a tint of color across something. There's blue. How about in the sky? I noticed I missed this spot. So how about a little bit of real light, real light. Now, if I did a wash like this afterwards with a brush, I'd be messing up all the stuff. And so I just found that to be, and I learned this again by watching some of the art that I saw at the TWSA show in Kenosha about 2 weeks ago. I went up there and I saw that there must be using an atomizer or using an airbrush. And I just found this one. This one was actually made for makeup. And so it's just sort of like, okay, they use it for makeup, but an airbrush is an airbrush, and so as long as you put your color in water, and watercolor is neat because the cleanup is super easy. I'm probably gonna get a bunch of these probably for my class just to let people use them. So you're gonna be able to use them in my class too. So I'm gonna get a couple of them that people will be able to use in my classes, because I thought what a neat way of making something that's really light like that. All right. So I think that's pretty much about it. So if you have any more questions, put them online there in your thing, and I will go back and I will answer some of them too. After this is over, I'll go back into the part of the Facebook where you answer questions. And so that's it for this one. So let me just take the tape off, show you what it looks like without the tape. And again, if you have questions, just let me know. Put them out there. I will go through the comments section and the chat section, I guess I should say, and I will try to answer them after it's all over. Maybe not right away, but we'll see. We'll see. Hopefully I'll get to them sooner or later. And if you want to have all your questions answered, just come to my class on the date that I suggested before. So there you go. There's the painting. And so let's see what else we can. Okay. I want to thank Scott for letting me do this today. Scott's from Dillman's, and also we've got Stephanie up there who's helping out too. And so if you want to sign up for the class, go to our website at dillmans.com, And anything else I can think of? I don't think so. So thanks again, guys. Thanks a lot for stopping by here and watching me do this painting. And this painting will probably be on my website, or on my Facebook page too. So sign up for my Facebook page if you're not on there. It's David R. Becker.com is my website. And also always remember, if you're ever searching for me on anything, Google or whatever, don't forget the R. David R. Becker. There's a lot of David Beckers out there, and there's a couple of artists too. And a couple of those artists paint some weird stuff. That's not me. All right. So again, thanks again, guys. Thanks again for letting me come to and show you how to do some a city scene. And again, come follow me on Instagram too. All that stuff. You can go all the social media, and you can see me all there on my website. Just go to my website, and everything's there. Anything you want to know. Or if you want to know about Dillman's, go to Dillman's website. And again, it's right over here at dillmans.com. This is their website, and so you can go there, dillmans.com. And there's my dates again, just to put them up there one more time. And then we will see you next time. All right, guys? We'll see you. Bye-bye.